Lisa Neller here with Lisa Neller Coaching and Unstuck, the Road to Reinvention. And if you've been to my show before, you know I like to interview fun people and talk about reinvention stories, as we tend to reinvent ourselves all the time. And so what I do as a coach is I help people get unstuck in their problems. So there are roughly 9 obstacles to moving forward in life. If you ever want to know all 9 of them, just DM me. I'm happy to share that with you. And then I help people get over one or more of those obstacles. So that's what I do. And tonight I have a guest who's super fun. Her name is Eden Robbins. I'd love to introduce you to her. And just a little background, I met Eden in a book club, and we got along famously, and the book club was super fun. It was eclectic.
Yes, definitely.
Right? So let me give you a little bio. So Eden is a writer. So it's Robbins, Robins. She's a writer, activist, and the founder of A Wholehearted Me, capital M-E, which is an exploration of the complex and rich tapestry of what it means to live wholeheartedly. As a wholehearted explorer, late bloomer, inspired creatress, and wellness practitioner who understands that living life with an aroused heart and a beginner's mind is a life truly lived. Eden is dedicated to lifelong learning, personal growth, self-care, meditation, loving fiercely, being curious, laughing out loud, intentionally contributing, staying healthy and active, and living each day to the present, to the woman her neshama guides her to be. And neshama is her soul. I had to look that up. But that's a it's a Hebrew word meaning soul. So beautiful. Eden considers life a conscious evolution that inevitably nudges her forward to a deeper exploration of the world and her place in it. So Eden, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you, Lisa.
I'm happy you're here with me too. And I'm super excited to hear your story. And so where I like to start is really just your story. Your background, go as far back as you want. Tell us maybe how reinvention has played a part in your life and all of that. And just talk as long as you want. I'm going to drink a little water because it's hot here in Arizona.
Okay. It sure is hot, definitely. Well, thank you again for having me. And I think the idea of reinvention, when we first started talking about this and about me being on your show, I was really intrigued by the idea of reinvention because a big part of my life has been, as I said, as you read in my bio, has been an evolution. I mean, it really has been an evolution. And I think that entailed and has entailed many reinventions. And I'll start with probably high school, actually. And I think high school is such a tough time. I'll speak for myself, but just trying to figure out who I am, where am I in this world? What's my place? That sort of thing. So that was a tough time for me for sure. And then I had an additional family crisis that came up during high school. And I was separated from my mother for about 3.5 years. And that was a really detrimental time for that to happen for me, as a teenager, that sort of thing. So at that point in my life, I had to make a choice. How do I want to live? Who do I want to be? And just try to take that day by day. So I think for me, that was a point of reinvention because I didn't have my mother there in a way that I had in the past. And so I had to sort of reinvent how I would go about my life and my challenges and my opportunities and that sort of thing. So it was an interesting reinvention in the sense that I wouldn't say it was all that positive, because I think part of it was the idea of numbing oneself as opposed to being very present to my life. And that frankly helped me get through what I needed to get through during that time. So that was a reinvention, not the healthiest one in the long run, but it helped me get through to that next place in my life. And then I think after that in college, I ended up spending a couple years overseas for college. And that's where I met now my ex-husband, but where I met my husband. And just being in a different country, going to college, that also is sort of a moment of reinvention, right? Because I'm with a different culture. I was in South Africa actually for 2 years, and just kind of relearning who do I want to be in this setting? You know, different people, different culture. That, you know, how do I acclimate, that sort of thing. And that was actually really fun. That was a fun exploration, and yeah, and that gave me a real taste for the idea of reinventing and evolving, as well as a taste for traveling and seeing new places and meeting new people. So that was a nice evolution, I guess. And then later on, I became a mother, and of course, there was the reinvention after I married my husband, a reinvention of myself there. What is it to be a mother? And I think that one of my best friends just captured the evolution into motherhood and the reinvention of motherhood so perfectly. I had already had my first child, my oldest son, and she became pregnant. And we talked quite a bit and stuff about being pregnant, about having a baby, that sort of thing. But right probably 2 days after she had her baby, she called me. She said, "Why didn't you tell me?" Meaning, you know, what is it to be a mother? And that's, you know, I'm assuming people can relate to that idea of like, to be a mother is, you know, you have to be a mother to understand, I think, that what that's about, and whatever that looks like, because it's a 24/7, you know. So yes. that was a reinvention for sure. And then I was married to my now ex-husband for, we were together 18 years, so quite a while. Actually, altogether 20. We were married 18, together 20. And I am a strong believer that books come into my life at a time when they need to come into my life. Mm. And I was at Barnes & Noble, and there was a book in the end cap that jumped out at me. And I have no idea why, what, you know, that was about, but I decided to buy it. And it was all about codependency and what codependency means. And that changed my life, because that numbing that I talked about earlier for my life, that became a norm for me. And that was through college, through my marriage, that sort of thing. There was a definite tendency to sort of detach and numb and not really be present to my life. And I realized at that point, after reading that book and thinking more about it, that, you know, I wasn't being fair to myself, I wasn't being fair to my husband, and I wasn't being fair to my kids in the way that I was living. And I wanted something different. So I ended up getting a divorce. And of course, reinvention happens again. Because what is it to then not be a married woman? What is it to be a single mom? You know, what is that? What is it to be back into the dating world, while also trying to just figure out again, like, who am I? Who do I want to be in the world? What do I want to do with my life? That sort of thing. So that was an interesting period of time for me. A lot of growth happened during that time. I started participating in a 12-step program that was related to codependency, Codependence Anonymous. And I'm so thankful for that program. I continue to be active in that program today, and it's been such a support and a help for me. And it's also helped with my reinvention and my evolution to become a healthier, more present person. So I am thankful, like I said, for that. And I spent about 10 years being single and sort of figuring myself out, growing up quite a bit. And I had been writing for quite a while. At that point, during my marriage, I had several books published. I should have mentioned that earlier.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask you if you didn't.
Yeah, I know you're an writer. Sorry, I'm a writer, just a little. And so I do write novels, and I had published multiple novels at that point, or had them published. And then when I got divorced, things sort of shifted for me. I think I started focusing more on my personal growth, quite a bit of that. Also just trying to be a mom, not having their father there with me full time, that became a different way of being in parenting. So there was reinvention there too. And then I decided to kind of veer in a little tangent, and I became a certified project manager, which is a different kind of approach. I obviously different brain working there, brain set. But I had a business degree, a background in business, so it wasn't that much of a leap of faith, but went into that. And that was a different world for me. I mean, I hadn't worked in corporate America before. And so when I became a certified project manager, I ended up in actually a university setting, and a large university setting, and had a job as a project manager there. And that was quite different for me. And I grew so much, not only professionally, but personally in that situation, because as you can guess, or you may guess, working as a writer, and working as a project manager, different skill set completely. And I had to learn a lot about being with people. And so that was part of that. So being present, all of this also is about like, how can I be present in this life and what I'm doing and where I'm at. And so I looking back, I love the fact that I had these different opportunities and evolutions and moments of reinvention, and continue to. And so that leads me sort of to today. After 10 years of being single, I remarried, met a wonderful man, and then I kind of clicked back into my writing. I reconnected. I'm not sure what exactly was going on for me during that 10-year period. I wrote sporadically, but not in the way I had prior to my divorce. And then I became inspired to get back into my writing fully. And I have to say, I missed it, and I didn't realize how much I missed it until I got back into it. And so now I'm sort of reinventing and getting back into the evolution of what it means to dive back into writing these novels and creating these worlds and these lives. And that's been incredible. And I'm so thankful for my creativity, because I think realizing I still had that meant so much to me, because I felt for a time that it just wasn't there, and I did miss it. And I'm so glad that is such a big part of my life again. So, and I'm writing different kinds of books now too. So there's reinvention there. I'm writing some different things there. And I love that too, that exploration, that growth and that learning. And it's been a challenge, but it's been a wonderful one. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at right now.
That is such a great story. Thank you so much for sharing that. In all the time we were in the book club together, I didn't really get to know you that well. So this is a peek into your history that is fascinating to me. Do you hear an echo on your end? Okay.
I don't.
Okay, sorry. That's okay. I just wanted to check. It's not a big deal. We'll just keep going. But I do want to say, I can tell how passionate you are about your writing. You wrote something for me for one of my marketing pieces, and you turned it around so fast, and it was so good, and it's almost on the web.
Just good.
Haven't quite gotten there yet. It's all in the piece, but it's
good.
It's not
It'll happen.
Functioning yet. But yeah, it was so beautiful. And so we can talk more about that later. But so you're the founder of A Wholehearted Me.
Yes.
So what does that mean? Like, what is that all about? A Wholehearted Me?
Well, it really did start out as a personal exploration for me. And it came back to the idea, which I think was a big part of my recovery program too, my 12-step program. And that had a lot to do with understanding that, and there's different language used and stuff, but basically understanding that I'm unique and I'm precious just the way I am. And A Wholehearted Me is the idea of sort of tending to the garden of the self. That's what I say. Usually it's about tending my own garden. And I am a strong believer. And as I've gotten older and hopefully a little bit wiser, I've come to the realization and the strong belief that if I am happy with me, if I'm happy with myself, if I take care of myself, that allows me the freedom to reach out and participate and contribute to the world and to things that I strongly care about. I think that if I'm unsettled and if I'm not happy with me, and I'm preaching to the choir in a way here, of course, because of your work, but you asked, so a whole heart of me is about that journey of exploring, me, like how do I tend to myself? It isn't about, although these are wonderful things, it isn't about getting a pedicure. It isn't about, getting a massage. It isn't about, a spa day per se, or buying myself beautiful things. That's all part of tending to me. But it's also about, what nourishes me on lots of different levels, and why is that important to me? And how does that help me function in the world in a healthier way, contribute to the people I care about, to the causes I care about, to the work that I care about? Like how does me being full help me function healthy and contribute more to the world? And that's when in my bio, I wrote I'm a conscious contributor, I think, because I think that one of the benefits of this exploration for me, of a wholehearted me, has been my realization that I can empower myself to do different things that make a difference, things that I care about. I think that for me, for a time, I had the thought that, what difference can I make? I'm one person, and there's these huge things going on in the world that I would love to help in some way. And I realized that it's kind of like the story of the rainbow fish. Did you ever read that to your kids or your?
I don't remember that book.
Okay. I love that book. That book and Chicken Soup for the Soul. I love that. Or not Chicken Soup with Rice. Sorry, that's the kids' book. Chicken Soup with Rice. Anyway, the rainbow fish. My kids will probably roll their eyes if they were watching this, but that's okay. Is about this beautiful fish, and how it had all of these different scales, and it was just gorgeous, and how for the longest time it didn't want to let go of its beauty and to let go of all of these things about it. But it realized, by accidentally giving someone one of its beautiful scales, it realized how wonderful that felt and how that made them feel inside. And so over the period of the story, the rainbow fish gives away all of his scales, rainbow colored scales, which are gorgeous except for one. And because of that, ends up being incredibly happy. Now that's, of course, a universal theme that's been told in many different ways, but that was an easy example for me. So I think the idea of being full enables me then to give in a way that I wouldn't normally feel that I could do. And that's a big part of what a wholehearted me is about, is how do I live each day in that way? And so I've had some different events associated with that movement, and I'll probably plan some more. It's mainly been geared toward women, but frankly, I think it could be for anyone to really get involved with. So the idea of, taking care of myself and how that helps me contribute to the world, and exploring that. And that's been a wonderful journey. I love that exploration. I love where that's taking me. I've talked to different people. If you go to my website, you'll see I have some interviews with some different people who I feel are, extraordinary people who really have taken the time to tend to themselves in a way that helps them give in a larger way. So,
well, give us an example of one of the things you do to take care of yourself.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, meditation is a huge thing for me, and it's grown over time, and it's something that I try to do as consistently as possible. And I'm not really formal about it at all. Like, it isn't something where I feel like I have to sit a certain way or be in a certain position or whatever the case may be. It's just really a place of quiet for me, I have a friend who, I asked her once, and I'd like to talk to her about her in a minute, but I asked her about a journey she was on, and I said, well, how did it help you grow? And she said, it's not really for me about growth necessarily, although that does happen. It's more about deepening. I'm deepening. And I loved that so much. And I realized that my meditation does that for me, that like just helps me deepen, and it helps me find a place of quiet steadiness too. I do struggle with anxiety in my life, and so the meditation for me is wonderfully grounding and wonderfully helpful for me to just bring my life and me back into a very good place, a very focused place. So that's just one way. That's one way.
Yeah, that's a beautiful way. I'm a meditator also, and I don't have one prescription for meditation. It's whatever works for you. There's so many ways to do it, and there isn't a right or wrong way. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I do feel like it is a deepening of the soul, and just really allows, like, once you get really quiet, and people don't understand that the mind never really shuts off. So like that whole controlling the thoughts, or at least letting them fly by and having fewer of them, does allow some creativity to come in, and messages and things like that. It's very cool. Yeah. So what is it that you are most passionate about? You talked about helping people and sharing, and what do you...
Well, there's many. I mean, there's more than one thing for sure, and I'm gobbling it all up, because I think, like, I feel so excited about those things that I'm passionate about, because a lot of this is because, again, going back to the self-care part of this, I didn't feel in a position or a place to pursue those passions in an authentic way until now in my life. And so I'm super excited about that. And one of my big passions has been wellness. I'm a wellness practitioner. And what I mean by that is I decided to become a vegan, or go into whole food plant-based diet. And I've been kind of in that mode it's been a few years now. Not a perfect process, not a perfect journey, but I felt a strong pull to do that for my health. I felt like that for me was a really good fit. And it felt really good to do it. So I feel really passionate about that, about wellness, and about putting nourishing things in my body. So not only like learning nourishing things, reading nourishing things, being around nourishing people, but also consuming things that I know are nourishing, because it feels really, really good for me to do that. It feels right for me to do that. And it makes me happy. And I'm super passionate about that. And I like cooking. So I've been exploring, just exploring and learning, reinventing how I cook, obviously now, because it's different. So that's been wonderful. And I love that. So that's kind of one of my wellness. And I try not to kind of push it on other people, but I just enjoy it. And I just wanted to put that out there, that it's something that I really find a lot of satisfaction in practicing. I am very passionate about our environment, and I think that moving toward becoming vegan has probably influenced that, because of the literature I've read and different things like that. Although I will say initially it really had to do with my health more than anything else that made that choice. But as a byproduct of that, my concern for the environment has grown. I just got done not too long ago reading A Planet Earth, I think. And it is, I thought I had it, let's see. Oh yeah, David Attenborough, Life on Our Planet. I had it here to remind me. And what I loved about that book, and what really kind of fed my passion even more, was the idea that lots of people say, like, we need to save our planet. We need to save our planet. Well, it's not really about that, because to be honest, if you look at places like Chernobyl, for instance, which he talks about in his documentary, life's going on there. Humans can't be there, but animals are there, and plants are there, and life is thriving. So to me, the environment, and making sure that we do things that are sustainable, that we change kind of how we're living our lives, and how we're consuming, and not thinking too much about our environment, I think that it's really about saving us as humans, because the earth will keep going. When it no longer becomes inhabitable for human beings, the planet will continue to exist. It's not about the planet. I mean, it is about the planet, but I think if more people try to understand that it's about our extinction ultimately, then it might be more something that we think about a bit more. And I know that that moves me tremendously. And so I'm frankly pretty worried about us as humans and what's going to happen. And I'm worried about, like, even within the next 10 years, what's going to happen. And so I'm taking steps in my own life and in my lifestyle and in the things that I contribute to, not only physically, like in terms of charity work and things like that, but also in terms of investing, where I invest my money, the products that I buy, the politicians that I believe in or I vote for. That has become a huge part of my decision-making process. And that goes back to the idea of, am I empowered as an individual to make choices that can make a difference? Well, I can decide where I put my money, and I can decide who I vote for, and I can decide how I live my life. Those three things are huge. And those three things, each person in this world can make a choice to do differently or think about consciously. So yeah, sorry.
No, I love that. And especially when you were talking about the environment, because, like, nothing ticks me off more than like seeing somebody wreck the environment intentionally. Like, a couple weeks ago, I was driving behind a truck and they were throwing water bottles out, and I was just feeling incensed by that, because it suggests such a low level of consciousness about the environment, And then I was thinking about this just yesterday, how the smallest environment makes a difference. The environment in your mouth, like flossing and brushing your teeth and making sure that environment is clean, and your body, and then everything has an ecosystem. And then your house, like, all the clutter in the world is not good for your mind. And anyway, we could go on and on about environmental stuff, but yeah, it made me think about just the smallest micro environmental thoughts. And so anyway, that's very cool. So I love that. And that all seems like it's part of your wholehearted living, Yeah. I love that. And so do you have a group of women that join you in this movement, wholehearted living?
Well, I actually have a community page on Facebook. It's called the Wholehearted Me Circle of Trust. And if anyone is interested, if you go to my Facebook page, just my general Facebook page, I can give you more information on how to request to join that. And frankly, at this point, any men who are interested in joining, like, I feel like if you want to, however you identify, come on over, because I think it's a movement that a lot of people can get on board with and feel connected to. So and we have periodic sort of community events, not very often. Recently, I haven't done a whole lot. This book I've been working on has kept me pretty occupied, but
well, and then there was COVID, so they really couldn't do much the last year.
Yeah, so we've done some online stuff, but hopefully get more active with that. And I feel really lucky that there is that community, and that people want to consciously, live their lives and contribute. And so I hope it continues. And like I said, you're welcome to come on over and join.
Well, I joined, so like yes. we'll put that under the video on Facebook.
Okay.
We'll put your information there. So what does being a woman over 50 mean to you? And you certainly are a beautiful 50-something.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, okay, before I say that, I want to say one more thing as far as the Wholehearted Me. I do have a website. I meant to mention that. So if anybody wants to go visit, you can learn a little bit more about it too, and see some of the videos of my interviews, and it's a wholeheartedme.com. So take a peek if you're interested. I meant to put that out there. So what does it mean to be over 50? Well, I think I'd be in my 50s. It's funny because my mother always told me growing up, she always said to me, your 50s are the best. And I said, really? She said, yeah. She said, they're the best. And I'm like, that's so counter culture in a way, because I think that in our culture, I'm reading a book right now called The Power of the Crone, and it's by Clarissa, oh gosh, what's her name? Estes Pincola. And she wrote Women Who Run with Wolves as well, which is an amazing book.
Oh, I read that. Yeah.
Yes.
Years ago. Yeah.
Yes. And so she wrote about being a crone, but crone, the original word of crone, and this will relate to your question, the original sort of derivative of that is from crown. And so crone initially, I know, initially was not a negative, did not have a negative connotation. That came later. And so my mom, and we could go into a whole thing about that, but anyway, I always said your 50s
over coffee.
Yeah, exactly. She said it's a fabulous time because you are in a place of knowing who you are, or at least in process of really getting a sort of more of a grasp of who you are. And you have this wisdom. You have the wisdom of those 50 years to kind of decide how you want to live and how you want to communicate with people, how you want to relate to people. And there's a confidence there that wasn't, she said, that wasn't there or wouldn't have been there when you were younger. And, I kind of listened to my mom, like, okay, mom, whatever, and although my mom's pretty wise, I'll say that. And she's right. I think that I have much more confidence than I did in my 30s. Definitely, like, my 40s was a big growth period for me, but I loved that part of it. And now I'm benefiting from that growth in my 50s. So I think the wisdom of my life lived up to this point is extremely beneficial. It's bringing me clarity, and it's bringing me peace, and it's bringing me confidence, and it's bringing me the ability to practice activism in different ways, like I talked about earlier, in a way I never would have when I was younger. I was pretty shy younger when I was younger, and so I don't feel that way anymore. I have moments like being on this show or public speaking where I get nervous and so forth, but also I just love being able to talk to people and hear people's stories and share my stories and like just use that wisdom and that experience to live and be present and have a different perspective than I did when I was younger, because there's a certain knowing now that I have that I didn't have when I was younger. And I love that.
That's the beauty of aging. And it's so funny that your mom said the 50s are your best decade. And like, I'm in my 60s. So I'm like, it keeps going. You keep just getting older and wiser. Yes. And there's still so much to learn, even in my 60s, I'm like, oh, really? I didn't know that. And
sure. Yeah.
I'm so afraid I'm going to die just not knowing everything. And I'm not going to know everything.
That's true.
It's bumming me out.
But you want to keep learning and growing. I think that's the fun, right? It's
absolutely
that beginner's mind. Like, I want to learn, I want to grow.
Yeah. It makes a person interesting too. I think when a person is reading and growing and, consciously evolving, they're interesting to me anyway. So let me ask you oh, by the way, I wanted to mention Angela Zarian. Have you followed her at all? Angela Zarian? No. She's a cultural anthropologist. And I wanted to share this real quick because we're on the subject of the crone. And when I was in my 40s, I listened to a tape series of hers called The Second Half of Life. And there she describes, because she's a cultural anthropologist and she has done research on all cultures and phases of life, she's talks about these 8 gates of initiation and how you go through these various parts of your lives, kind of reinventing yourself almost unconsciously, really. Yeah. And then you get to this older stage, these later years, and our job really becomes generative. It becomes passing along the wisdom that we've acquired over the years. And so for anyone who's listening, like if you think life is over at 50 or 60 or 70, you got another thing coming because you are really, and you can be called to impart your wisdom in ways that can help other people grow. And it's very fulfilling. So anyway, just a side note. And
I love that.
I gave you this question earlier. I'm messing with my earbuds here, folks. They just keep falling out. I don't know. I have to get another pair. What tools help you get unstuck?
That's a great question. And I think that I'm going to fall back on my recovery a lot, my recovery program, my 12-step program, because part of that process is what I often call creating sort of my toolbox to healthier living. And I think that a big part of that is the idea of letting go when it's time to let go, right? Because for me, the holding on too tight and too long has been a problem. And so I think the ability to say, okay, it's time, it's time to move forward and let go. Or I can't control the world. Like, this is another tool in my tool. Like, I can control me. That's it.
That's it.
I can't control my children, my husband, my colleagues, my friends, my parent, family. I can control me. And if I'm willing to, in a moment of feeling stuck or in a moment of feeling incredible anxiety, if I'm able to get in touch with that and realize, you know what, I have to let this go, because I can only control how I react, what I do, what I say. What the other person does is their business, not my business. And all I can do is let go. And that's hard sometimes. That's real hard. For me, especially as a parent, it's hard because I have now adult children. And so, as a mother in that dynamic, I still want to say, wait, there's a wall there. You don't need to run into that wall. Let me tell you how to do it. It's easier this way.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And you can't, sometimes I know for me, I had to run into the wall, sometimes several times before I figured it out. So that kind of thing. So that's something that definitely helps me is the ability to let go, to realize I'm not in control of the world or anybody else, and only control of myself. And also bringing it back to me. There are times of anxiety or stress or fear or anger or whatever, where I really just have to go back to my meditation or go back to breathing or go back and just say, okay, let me just take a minute. And sometimes that's all it takes. I started practicing when I do public speaking. And I took classes in public speaking as a novelist. I've given workshops, things like that. I still, get very, very nervous. But what I started doing probably in the last 5 years or so is right before I get ready to speak, I will, after I'm introduced or whatever the case may be, I will stop, and I won't feel this need to like rush in and fill the silence. I would take a sort of a deep breath, just take it, and just kind of, and people are kind of waiting or whatever, and that's fine. And then I just release that. And if I need to do it again, I do it again. And there's something that just by me taking that time to do that, even though it's just a quick thing, that grounds me in a way and it helps me get through. And I think that doesn't just apply to public speaking. It applies to just life, being able to bring it back and say, okay, where am I right now? I'm okay. I'm healthy. I'm breathing, whatever the case may be. I'm standing. My eyes are open. I can see the world, whatever it is. Like, it's going to be okay. It's going to work itself out one way or another. Let me just take a moment and get back to me and realize that, and not try to create 100 million different stories and scenarios that 95% of the time never happen. The ones I'm anxious about. Like, let me try to just be in the moment. So those are some of the tools that I use.
Yeah, that's the power of now, isn't it? The power of presence. Yeah. It's so, I was watching an interview of a coach, and someone asked her a question, and she really needed to think about it. And she's like, let me take a moment. And I was like, oh, that's great.
Yes, I love it.
It's like, slow down, get in the present, and then the thoughts will come, the wisdom will come.
Yeah.
And that's really cool. So my next question, you've already answered it, but let's repeat it. What are you reading right now?
Okay. Yeah. And I just want to go back to what you just said too, because I think that's so important to be able to take a breath, you know, and I think that's something that is also I learned through my program and continue to learn, is the idea that someone can ask me something, and if I'm not ready to give an answer, not just in an interview, but hey, can I borrow your car today? Whatever it is, I can create the space for me to say, let me think about it and let you know in a bit. Yes. Whereas, you know, being that reactive, like, oh, well, no, or oh, yes, or well, and coming up with all these different excuses and being frantic and anxious or whatever. I love that, the example you just gave, because that's giving myself space. That's giving myself space to really think and breathe. It's like giving myself that breathing moment in a different way. And I've never, you know, since I started practicing that, I don't think I've ever had anyone ever say to me, no, you have to tell me right now. It's never been, you know, it's like, okay, you know, think about it. Take your time. You know, yeah, okay. All right.
Yeah.
So anyway, it sounds so simple. And yet for me, for the longest time, I felt like I had to give an answer. I had to react. I had to respond right away. And there's a freedom in not doing that. So anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. What am I reading right now? Well, I am reading the library book. I just started that as part of another book club, and it's basically the story of the Los Angeles Public Library fire, and I believe it happened in the 80s, and it was a huge fire. It destroyed thousands and thousands of books. And I think that the story is, and I'm not far into, I just began, you know, the story, but it's basically different lives of people that were involved with that in various ways. And I think the overall theme of the book really comes down to the power of libraries in our community today, and what purpose they serve, and how that's being forgotten, I think, in some ways, and how it has been a community learning and gathering and growing place, not only a place to buy, you know, not to borrow books, but also a place of gathering and community, and it's valuable. And so I'm interested to see where that book goes. So just starting that. I'm reading, let's see, This Is Your Brain on Food. I have my pile here, so I'm going to just show you. This is Your Brain on Food.
Okay.
See it.
Oh, my husband read that. Well, no, maybe not that one.
There's another one. This is Your Brain on Plants, which is a very interesting one too. But this is about food, because I'm really into, again, food for health. I think that food is healing, and so I'm loving this so far.
So eat walnuts, folks. Eat walnuts. You can see it's good for the brain.
It is. The Overstory by Richard Powers. Fabulous, fabulous book. If you have any thoughts about plant consciousness, about plants working together, trees communicating, trees working together with other plants, and how that is intertwined in a web that's global. It's a novel. Fascinating lives of people in this novel, and beautiful writer. I don't think I've encountered quite as talented a writer since John Steinbeck, to be honest with you. I'm going to give him a really good review here, because amazing writer. See, you asked. Okay, so I read several books at the same time. Sorry.
So do I. So do I. Yeah. I have a stack too.
Just finished that. Okay.
Wait, what was that one? What was that one?
That was A Life on Our Planet, David Attenborough. That was when I finished. That's a fabulous book about the environment. Women's Empowerment and Our Ability as Individuals to Change the World. A Moment of Lift, Melinda Gates. Incredible book. Finished that one. This is in process. I didn't talk about this, but another of my passions is the idea of creating a world that has equity for all, and where marginalized people are no longer marginalized. And so at the moment, I'm reading this huge historical. It's called Stamped from the Beginning, and it's by Ibram X. Kendi. And he also has written a book called How to Be an Anti-Racist.
Oh, I have that one.
Fabulous. Yeah. Yes. If you ever want a sort of a different historical take on the United States and the world, amazing book. I'm into the 1930s right now and still have quite a ways to go, but fascinating historical account. All right, there are others, but I'm going to stop there. That's where I'm at.
What's the crone one you were talking about?
Oh, that's called The Power of the Crone, and that's actually, I'm listening right now an audio book, because I do Audible, So I don't have that in print to show you right now, but it is The Power of the Crone. Let me get my phone to make sure here. Power of the Crone, and it's Clarissa. Oh, what is it? Clarissa Pinkola Estes.
I've heard of that book. I know women who've read it. I'm going to ask you when we post this. Well, this is going live. This is live on my Facebook, but like afterwards, if you wouldn't mind posting some of those, I think that would be so cool.
And one more
to share those.
Last one.
One more.
I want to share this one. It's fabulous. It's called Set Boundaries, Find Peace. Boundary setting, huge in my life, empowering in my life, freed me up in ways I've never would have imagined. I'll also add that. That's an amazing book as well. So
yes, boundary setting is important. You have to really learn to love yourself and take care of that's part of taking care of yourself is setting boundaries and learning how to do that. And that's a skill. I think some of us don't always learn it until later in life. Well, so speaking of libraries, my husband and I go up north a lot into the mountains, and we go, my husband has fallen in love with the Payson Library. And so he discovered it a few months ago, and like every Saturday he goes there and so we went there Saturday, and we just sat and read for about an hour. And I decided that I really like biographies. So I go right to the biography section. And the first one I got was on Dick Van Dyke. And I had such a blast reading that because he was my era, he's older than me, but like Sound of Music and everything else. Not Sound of Music, Mary Poppins.
I was going to say Mary Poppins.
Dick Van Dyke Show, all that stuff I grew up with. And then this week I picked up a book on Condoleezza Rice, and really fascinating. Her growing up in the South in what you might call, well, it was definitely segregated Birmingham. And look where she's come, where she's come from and where she's gone to. So inspiring.
Definitely. So, that's so cool. I haven't checked out the library there yet, but I used to.
Oh, that's right. You're up there. We're neighbors now.
We're neighbor. I know. I haven't been there yet. So
all right, we've got to meet.
I just want to tell you, I have an affinity for libraries and archives, because that's where after my divorce, I started working at the state archives downtown, and fell in love with historical documents and books. And the state library is under the umbrella of the state library. So part of my work was outreach work, where I went to libraries all around the state and talked to them about their historical documents and their book. And I just fell in love with libraries. I just realized the value of them. And so the book I'm reading now is perfect for that. So I'm going to check out the Payson Library.
Yes, let's meet there.
Okay.
Let's get some coffee. There's a whole room in there just on the state of Arizona. It's so cool.
Oh, so that's neat.
You're going to love it. What else? So what are you writing right now? This is the last question. Other than where can people find you? We're going to go back to that again. But what are you writing?
So I am in the process of finishing 4th round edits of, speaking of letting go, this book has been 4 years in the making, but 4th round edits on my novel. It is a coming of age story of a young woman who is faced with racism in a very shocking way. And it's actually set in Arizona in the 1980s. And it's all about sort of her struggle to navigate what she's learned and how it sort of opened her eyes in lots of different ways. And she has to make a decision in the book whether to grow as a person and move forward, or to stay where she's at and decide just to kind of be blind to the world around her. So it's about her evolution and growth and that sort of thing. And so I'm pretty excited about it. And I'm on the last 60 pages of the final edits. And then I also have another book I'm working on, which is the story of 2 mothers whose lives intersect. And they intersect, unfortunately, around the idea of losing their sons, and what that connection ends up doing for each of them, mainly for one of the moms, and how it changes her life, and how she decides to live her life. So.
Interesting. Oh, wow. Well,
and then last thing, I'm writing a book on creativity. I want to just throw that out there too, because that's sort of a side project. but I'm writing this story of, not this story, this will be a nonfiction, but it's all about what is creativity in all of our lives and how does it play in all of our lives, because we're all creative in different ways. And what does that do for how we live our lives? So, okay.
Beautiful. Well, so aren't you doing some other writing as well, professional writing?
Yes, I am. Thank you for asking.
Yes, of course.
I am also doing some copywriting. And that's been a lot of fun. And that's been a different process for me. Copywriting is so different, but yet it's also helped me with my novel writing in surprising ways. And so I am mainly focusing on empowerment industries. So I've been doing a lot of copywriting for people focused on women empowerment. I'm also now sort of thinking about broadening out to things like planet empowerment, environmental empowerment. I mean, it goes with my passion of, of what I feel strongly about. So yeah, so I'm loving that. And I feel like there's just such a great flow to it for me, such a different kind of flow. And I wondered when I first started it, like, can I do this and write my novels? And then I realized how much they play into each other and help me so much, because I can be a bit wordy in my novel writing, and that's something I work with the editor and that sort of thing to help me with. But the thing about copywriting is it's very has to be very succinct, concise, powerful writing. And so it's really helping me grow as a writer with my novels as well. And so I'm so thankful for that. And it's fun. It's really just, the process is so much fun. I love it. So.
Yeah, you're good at it and you're fast. And
Thanks.
So again, where can people find you for that and a wholehearted me? We'll just go over that again, but mainly tell us what you want.
All right. Well,
yeah.
If you want to find out about my copywriting, you can go to my LinkedIn page. You'll see Eden Robbins in LinkedIn. And then if you want to know about my writing, I'm not going to send you to my old website because it's very outdated. So what I would recommend is you can go on Amazon and find some of my books there. If you want to contact me directly, you can go to my Wholehearted Me website. I'm actually going to start putting more of my book information up there, my new books and my works in progress and that sort of thing. You can also join the Wholehearted Me Circle of Trust on Facebook, and we can connect there and we can talk more about books and life and the environment and veganism and all this other stuff. So I am going to revamp my my author website, but I don't want to refer you to that now because I feel like it's super outdated.
So I just, one quick thing and thought and question, and this has to do with Brene Brown, because she's all about wholehearted living. Like, did any of your verbiage come from her?
A lot of my learning, yeah, I think I probably have most of her books because I talk about her. I'm surprised I didn't talk about her today, actually, because she usually comes up at least one time. She's so courageous, and yes, and I just love how bravely she attempts to live, and I love how robust she is in the research that she does and that she presents. She's no lightweight. Like, if you look at the stuff she presents in her books, heavy duty research. Yeah. I love it, and I love her whole take on shame, because shame, I mean, I could have a whole conversation with you about shame and how, for me in my life, that has been so detrimental, getting it involved in sort of this shame spiral of things that just took me down a rabbit hole I did not need to go down. Yeah. The inability to be vulnerable, and then learning how to be vulnerable and what that means, like how the power and the peace that comes with that. So yeah, she's one of my heroes. I'm really surprised I didn't bring her up. I don't know what that's about, but I love Brene Brown. And yeah, if anyone out there has not read any of her stuff, Gifts of Imperfection, it's a fabulous book. Daring Greatly, of course.
Yeah, she's doing a great podcast series right now on the gifts of imperfection. So if you haven't listened to that, go listen. But anyway, I think we need to wrap it up. But Eden, thank you so much for joining me tonight. This has been so fun. And hang with me after we end this streaming. But I want to say thank you to those of you who stuck with us and watched us talk. And I hope you got something out of it. So again, Lisa with Lisa Neller Coaching, Unstuck, the Road to Reinvention. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next time.
Thank you.